Hey everybody, we're at the WizardCon 2001 Special Edition, and right now I'm here with George Perez, artist among artists, pretty much up there close to God on the artist scale. Well, I'm not saying you're the God. I'm saying you're up there on the artist scale. So how's the convention been for you, George?
This has been such an incredible joy. I mean, the idea of people standing in line just to get a sketch from me is just so heartwarming and gratifying. I'm very, very honored and humbled.
Must say, very humbling experience, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, like the fact that these people will invest hours of their lives just to, to get, doodle from me. It's like, yeah, I can't even explain how that feels. It just makes me feel like I'm in really the right business.
Well, actually, how did you get started in this business, George?
Even though I was drawing since I was 5 years old, it was going to my first convention when I was in freshman year of high school that finally made me decide this is the job for me. And I got my first big break at a comic convention when I met an artist named Rich Buckler, who at the time needed an assistant. So after unsuccessfully trying to get a job with the companies on my own, I got a phone call from Rich offering me an assistant's job, got my foot into Marvel that way, and eventually they had a few strips out there that nobody wanted to handle. Let's give it to George, because he would do anything, and I did. And Astonishing Tales number 25, which introduced Rich Buckler's Deathlock, has the first credit work that I've ever done, where I did a little 2-page comedy strip showing Doug Mensch and Rich Buckler creating Deathlock out of discarded ideas in a trash can, and Deathlock arises out of the trash can. Rich Buckler drew the Deathlock figure. I wasn't good enough at the time.
Oh, I can't even think of you hardly not being good enough to draw something.
I look at that stuff, and I was glad and lucky that I got work.
Now, coming up, they finally gave the go-ahead for a JLA Avengers crossover, and you actually had it worked into your cross-gen contract, which we'll talk about cross-gen in just a moment, that you would be allowed to work on this if this ever came up. How does it feel to finally be doing a project that you've waited years for?
Well, it makes for an excellent valedictory address. It's the one of the few things in my career that was unresolved, one that could be salvaged. And when Joe Quesada and Tom Brevoort and Mark Alessi and everyone, and Mike Carl and everyone else said, yes, we're going to do it, I was a little skeptical, but when I got the go-ahead, I said, fine. I'm elated. I can finally do that last dream project, and by the time it's printed, it will have been 20 years since I started the aborted version of the Justice League Avengers crossover.
Now, I remember during a conversation with you, you said something to the effect that if you had decided to pass on this project would have been dead in the water.
Yes, Joe Quesada was pretty much of the feeling that we've kind of diluted the effects of crossovers. So this is one that he thought historically needed to be done, but because of that sense of history, it was also to be done by me. I had started it. I have a fan following. I'm what they consider hot now, and it should be mine to do. That's the only reason it exists beyond, commercial. And if I had turned it down, there would have been no artist really who would have wanted to do it for fear of just being considered a replacement artist. And it was kind of nice having a project that hinged on my agreement to do it. And needless to say, that was not a problem to begin with.
Now, you're here at the CrossGen booth because you're part of CrossGen Comics.
Yes.
How did you get into this?
Well, actually, I was approached by Mark Alessi through my friend Barbara Kiesel, who's the head writer over at CrossGen. And Mark had told his concerns about the industry and what needed to be done in order to try to convince fans that comics are worth their time because we put all serious effort into it. And it was very revolutionary in the fact that everybody in CrossGen is part owner of the company. And while there is no royalty, since it's all owned by the company of which we are members, we are involved in the profit sharing. So there's no room for ego. Everyone acts like a professional adult because we're there to support each other. One person's success at the expense of another is not what CrossGen's about. We all want to succeed. We want the company to succeed. the industry to succeed, and we will all benefit in the long run. And the investment of our time, the investment of our talent, and the investment in getting the right equipment for the right people, and creating a working atmosphere wherein writers, artists, colorists, letters are all working side by side in the office, has given us a new working dynamic that most of us have never experienced before. And after a touch of apprehension, I find very invigorating. Now, I do work at home. I don't work in the offices, but I really, really miss it when I don't work there, because it really is such an exciting place. And I'm getting to do things outside of superheroes for the first time and finding that it really, really is suitable to my style.
Sounds kind of like a commune in a way, but actually...
No, the thing is, I love, people have made, the comments on it because it's so unusual for comics, but, a communal office environment is what jobs are about. I mean, you work in an office, you work in cubicles to produce a product. It's just that in this case, we are all creators, and people do have a tendency of thinking, well, creators should not be corralled in, but we're beside each other. We're out there to encourage each other to do it, and you can't do that if you're working in a vacuum. We're getting a lot of feedback from each other, and I think it's becoming much more creative than I've ever experienced before. I mean, it's kind of nice to have other people look at your work and cheer you on a regular basis.
Now, we were talking before we had this interview, and we were talking on Friday, and you direct videos now.
Well,
what's up with that?
Oh yes, I actually am involved with fetish videos in female cat fighting and combat for a company called Double Trouble Productions in California. I mean, I was always into that fetish, and I decided one time to ask them about doing a superheroine cat fight. Liked what they did, and suddenly I started writing the scripts. I started producing them eventually, and I got to direct a few. I was even in a couple, and finding that I'm developing quite a following there too. I've met a lot of lovely young women, including the producer, who's are a lot of fun. They're all into comics, which is amazing. They love getting into costumes and being superheroines. So it's a nice little sideline that I get to do, which is a break that I really need sometimes just from sitting at a drawing board.
Now, if someone wants to pick up these videos, or if they want to order them, where can they order them at?
They can go online to www.dtwrestling.com and just go on the home site. There's even a page with a little bio of me in there, and it talks about the Sisterhood of Superheroines, which is the name of the series that I produce.
Well, that's something we're going to have to definitely check out. Now, George, we understand that you're very busy. You've got a huge line here, so we're going to have to take off on you. But we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're always a consummate gentleman. And, wow, that's all I can say. I'm glad that we were here. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll be back next year. Bye.
Bye-bye.